First, before we get there, we are going to make this bigger so that it can be seen. Well, we had first dimension, that is here, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, inevitably the seventh, where it will be, because the seventh is a union between the light and darkness. And what is this called? In a very strange way, we call it illumination, because I say very strange because I am uniting light and darkness, therefore would be the realization, but it is unification of all things. Enlightenment is when I understand all this structure. It is called seventh, and I free myself from karma, transfer. If there I free myself from karma later of this, if you can reincarnate as a teacher, like if you can come back, 1, 7, and 9 are numbers sacred to the universe, because these numbers take me to God. These numbers take us to the center of all reality. Therefore, where the process ends in the ninth dimension, because the ninth is the same as the seventh, is the same as one when it is reached, and I am returning to the center, to the origin. The ninth allows me to see the whole process here in the center, no longer in the mind, but in the center before the universe created everything from an idea, and the way it is transcended is through integrating experiences, emotions, and mindsets and everything together. Others are buying things more likely if we have a universal structure which everything develops from affinity or resonance. Remember that the universe arises from a wave of frequency, frequential expansion. Therefore, all those beings that vibrate in the same tune, I will always find them. If then that is what he calls families, or has to do with harmony, with which I am, all the souls that vibrate in my harmony are the souls with whom I resonate. Note the word resonate. It is the. I hope I finish explaining this, because if you don't get off topic, the seventh dimension one time, that reaches the seventh dimension, and I have already passed through these 4 in many levels of creation, here, 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 and here, because I was doing all this spiral. Therefore, I was going through all the possible levels of seventh, sixth, fifth. I have to enter the next dimension. What is the next dimension? The number 8 dimension. The eighth dimension is the one that transcends the created reality itself on the outside. What does the eighth dimension mean? The eighth dimension is in the form of the torus. The eighth dimension allows me to observe all the imagined points of view so this dimension is the one called space-time. In the fourth dimension, we already practice, and therefore we are not conditioned by time, as it is relative, because I can transcend a three-dimensional structure, so I move on to another level. Therefore, time begins to be totally relative. But 4 plus 4, which is 8, what it means is that I can position myself in all aspects. That is to say that I don't just see those that I have created, but I see all the others in the eighth dimension. I am seeing infinity. I am seeing time present, past, and future at the same instant, and not only mine but that of all things that exist. Being in the eighth dimension is very difficult, because it is not a being that arrives and says, here I am, this is a number 8. It is not an impressive entity that is within the same system as each dimension, that does not have a body, it does not have space, it does not have time. It goes through absolutely everything through that. The way to see it is like a magnetic torus today that observes all latitudes and longitudes at, that is 8, and where does it go to 9? And the integration of all this is to say another 10. Then dimensions 1, 7, and 9 are numbers sacred to the universe, because these numbers take me to God. Yes, to these numbers take us to the center of all of reality. Therefore, where the process ends in the 9th dimension, because the 9th is the same as the 7th, is the same as 1. When it reached the I am, returning to the center, to the origin, the 9th allows me to see the whole process here in the center, no longer in the mind, but in the center, before the universe created everything from an idea. And the way it is transcended is through integrating experience, emotion, and mindset, and everything together. If we have a universal structure in which everything develops from affinity or resonance, remember that the universe arises from a wave of frequential expansion. Therefore, all those beings that vibrate in the same tune, I will always find them. If then that is what he calls families. At has to do with the harmony with which I am. All the souls that vibrate in my harmony are the souls with whom I resonate. Note the word resonate. If it is the frequency wave with which I familiarly resonate, and that resonance, it's becoming more and more refined in many exercises that are the different frequency waves of the smallest of these frequency waves are the weapons most in tune with the ones I normally travel from life to life, because I'm going to find myself for a matter of tuning, and as if it were a song of my same style is like something like that. That's why I find re-electing myself again and again, also because this pattern that I have created has made different beings occupy a strategic place that inevitably goes to make sure that when I go from one level to another, they return to do that path with me, because they are also practicing the same thing as me. So the only thing they do is change roles. Today I am a son, and another mother, and then the son, and we turn not to observe another point of view that can also spend, or as friends, or as a family in general, uncle, grandmother, whatever, and teachers, students, all the people you meet in life can. You have made that exchange good. The body is useful up to the fifth dimension. In the sixth, it is no longer seen as something completely useful. Fifth dimension can be experienced. It is usually called an enlightened one. Person who, like Krishna at the time, as Buddha, like Jesus, people who have enlightened in life, but who continue to live in the physical body, teaching, radiating, performing miracles. That is, they live in the fifth here in the earth. These are in the third. Why is it in the third? Because they decide to be in the third. That is when one reaches the fifth dimension. They can choose to continue being born, or they cannot continue living this reality. Or there is not worth mentioning that the third dimension is not the only place where we are born or live. If also in the fifth dimension of planets that vibrate in that reality, there are civilizations, there are things to do there. That is the third. 9 is the axis of everything. It is simply an observation point, but there are millions of things to do in it. Universe, not only this, then until fifth dimension I can live a physical experience, then I can only be in contact with those dimensions, but not live those dimensions in matter. The matter is, it dissolves when it reaches the sixth dimension, because I am capable of dissolving realities. That is, I am become a plant if I want to. I can do anything. That is what, before asking any other question, I want to close with our location within the system is inevitably in the third dimension. We are observing this, but we go from one level to another constantly like this. So this system is just a point of view of this reality, as he had said before, at the moment when we stop observing the positive and negative, and we realize that there is no path to the positive and no path is a negative, but that both are holding a neutral point, which is where we have to go suddenly. We are going to that aside from this here to the purpose we call religion, and this other side we call science. If, for example, then neither of them have the truth is in the center. Religion tells me where to go. Science tells me I observe where I am is understood. But the two united here in the center, that is neutrality. That is why neutrality implies the observation of things without judging what I have created. To light and illumination are not the objective of the universe. They are a purpose that the universe has set itself to have limits, and is to say that in the immense totality of infinity, it is impossible to discover oneself if I don't put limits on myself. So what I have done is put limits on one of those great limits that I have created in the universe. The principle is purpose, then the other limits are the missions. And since the missions can be so broad, also the system decided to cut them through a fundamental tool called the evolutionary frequency. Is to say that the positive energy emits a frequency towards the negative, and the negative energy emits a frequency towards the positive. If both together are creating a balance of creation that we call DNA. DNA, which means deoxyribonucleic acid is in itself the tool that the universe has to be able to live and physically experience all its possible perspectives at different points of view. If dividing again and again in different its options, so sometimes it's going to be here to the positive, sometimes the negative, to be here. We're going to constantly turn creating life. Life is the tool of the spirit to be able to find the different aspects of oneself. Life is a tool, a path. Biology is the system. Biology and evolution is a system that found the universe, its own being, to create all possible realities, and so we biologically are the result of a spirit that is trying to find an aspect of itself when it goes all the way around this. This appears, it's called a sphere. A sphere is the most evolved being. Any being that has a circular aspect is a being that returns towards the integration of itself, because all points of view are at the distance from the center. We don't have this. We, like as separate beings, we have in the head, and the negative below is in this way. We have the center in the middle part of the body. Middle part counting from the genitals towards the head, the legs, is an evolutionary necessity for to walk and run faster. But glandular mind, we are from here to here. So what is the midpoint of what of that? The heart. Then we have to return to the heart. Feel with the heart, be at the service. All those cheesy things that we usually say in the world of spirituality has to do with working from the heart, because it is the midpoint where everything goes. If in it is a proportional mathematical question, it is not a cheesy spiritual question, but we put it in vocabularies of emotion so that we remember it, because emotion is the only tool we have to be able to remember where the voice comes from. Second, and there it is, what is unconditional love? Is when I position myself, me, from the center. I observe that everything that has happened in history is at the same distance, and therefore everything comes, and part of my love, you know what love means. Love comes from Latin, morse, meaning without death. Morse means without death. The word without death. Therefore, life is the interpretation. Unconditional comes from the word without condition, but in reality, the universal form of understanding unconditional love has this word that is the truth. That the way the universe interprets unconditional love, where there is gravity in all things, basically, because you are in the earth, we are here because of gravity. In other words, the earth loves us. And we say the earth loves us just the same. She loves us unconditionally. If the frequency goes to the same place, it goes to the center, then love and conditional things arise and return to the center, no matter who they are, what they do. Everything returns to the center. Inevitably, the universe tends to return to the center. Therefore, all strings are the different types of love. Love of a son, love of a couple, of a father, of grandparents, from a plant to his seed, from a dog to his puppies. All the different types of love and positive. I want this it's a negative, this hate, but it's another kind of love. I love you so much that I don't know how to tell you so. Hate you so much, yes, they are just ropes for the universe. It's all unconditional love, because the one who hates you and the one who loves you also reach the center with the same force. If it is that unconditional love, gravity is the best way to define it, because when we talk about it from the emotion, we say, but how can I love someone who he has hurt me? Basically, I can love him because there is a magnetic gravitational force that inevitably attracted to people who are the same as that other person who notice. Sometimes it can happen that I always meet a person who vibrates the same or has the same energy as a person who I hate it more, and that's because I'm vibrating in a tune that needs to find the center. So if I'm very high up, someone came from very low down to bring in the center. That's understandable. If then unconditional love is gravity, everything returns to the center, because from unconditional love, all aspects of reality are exactly the same distance from good to bad. All perspectives, all realities, everything is useful for the universe, so that is unconditional love. The acceptance that all reality that exists works according to how I attract things. That's why I vibrate in love. Unconditional, all things will exert the same force over me, and therefore I become zero. That is to say, everything and nothing is then a being that does that, is the earth. That is why they have a spherical shape. The sun, also the earth falls to the sun, the moon falls to the earth. We are going to make the earth, the sun falls to actions towards the black hole at the center of the galaxy, and then everything goes towards its center. Inevitably, that is unconditional love. They are no longer, without saying anything, like what I just described. The universe is not a whole, is a one, observing through all. Therefore, when I go to myself and I return to the center, what I am going to realize is that here I am, a housewife, and here I am, a general in the Andromeda galaxy, for example. Then suddenly I have an awakening of conscience washing the dishes, and I see myself, an alien on a moon. If I say it was that multidimensionality, is when this is when one who is here suddenly for some reason does and goes here, the center, and then he can see this, and they go into the hall of mirrors, and he sees all the other realities. Maybe he connects with only one. If you understand, then there is a fact that connects. So that connection means that everything is happening in multidimensionality. Absolutely, but I only connect with what I am feeling at that moment. The whole universe is a single being looking at billions of perspectives. That's called multidimensionality.